What is up, everyone? I think we should be live right now. Let's do what we always do. Check everything. Yeah, we are live. Beautiful. Let me just start by sharing the stream into the Discord. Let's see here. We're gonna start real soon on Bitcoin. I'm just sharing everything real quick and then we are gonna go into the analysis. Gonna put a little background music, of course. There we go. Right now. Okay, let's start by analyzing Bitcoin. Let me go check the 1 hour. Okay, so what has Bitcoin been doing? I am not gonna go over this high time frame literally every single time I go live because then everything will be a long journey. Okay, we're just gonna go over this local pit, what happened today. Why am I gonna do that? Because I am also actively into the Discord. All of the high time frame scenarios are in there. So I also want in these live streams, I want to go over the local picture, what happened today, what were the possibilities, and what are the possibilities for maybe right now, maybe tomorrow, but we will see and find out while analyzing it. Okay, so what is so interesting, because I am gonna zoom into here, but we have to acknowledge this part first, because this is our last pullback before we've actually made new highs and also caused the break of this huge accumulation. And what we did here is we front ran uh, our lowest point of liquidity there actually, which could indicate us coming back later to the level, still sweeping it and then moving to the upside. So you could argue that we're just attracting buyers, building up liquidity on the lows to then take it out and start moving from there. That's a possibility. I do like this bottom here though. This does look like some market maker involvement, but I don't like the fact we front ran that. Why would we front that liquidity if the market makers could have swept it and had way more opportunity to fill up the orders? So we have to keep that in mind. And also when we look, since we've put in this bottom, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 higher lows now. This looks a lot like building liquidity. This doesn't look that strong to me at all. And that is also because this is our high time frame move that brought us all the way to new lows. So yes, we are reacting up, but overall on the daily time frame as well, I think we will see that we are still in that bearish trend. This is our bullish candle with an imbalance below that brought us all the way towards new lows. So this is where the sell strength came from, and we could still expect the same on where we are right now. So unless we break this high right here, our overall trend on the daily time frame will still be a lower high for once again new lows, and this would also connect to our bias, which is front running this liquidity right here. Because when we make equals like that, we are leaving that liquidity for later. Okay, so let's zoom in on this local part because we still had a little supply untested here. My opinion about this supply is it isn't the greatest, and that is because if you look at this, for example, this was your trend up, and this was your last price action that brought you to new lows. That's also what you tested right here, and that's when you can continue towards the downside. And this is basically just internal trend that hasn't been tested yet because we front ran it right here. But then again, we are getting reaction from this level, so we'll see from that. The Chartsmith, let's go. Of course, my man. Just gonna toss a quick live, gonna go over a quick few charts, some high time frames. Maybe there's locally something interesting, but I'm not gonna go all too long in this live stream because I do have other things to do. My mic is a bit soft. Okay, wait. Test, test. It should be a lot louder now. But I put it that soft so you do not hear my mouse that much and my keyboards as well. But of course the sound of my voice is way more interesting than wait, I wanted to put up a little background music. So let's do that. Do I like this? No. Do I accept it? Yes. Alright. I have this local scenario sketched in because we're getting reaction from this untested supply, which makes sense. But that doesn't mean we can go for a new low straight away. We are locally still trending up. High time frame it is down, but if we never manage to break our trend locally, we're just gonna continue up and keep on breaking new highs. Seen the NQ play, just missed it because of dinner. I don't know, I'm literally just online and thought about starting the live stream. But I did have a few things here and there drawn in. There it is. High time frame, you definitely could have expected more upside on NQ, because this is where your high time frame structure also connects. You've made a new high, you never tested it, build up liquidity on the lows. You tested your low, your liquidity or your structure aligns, and that's when you can continue. Let's look locally. accumulation with way more aggression towards the upside, which could indicate buyers stepping into the market. Also makes it interesting to go over here. Of course, you did the same, traded below this low, sellers came into the market. But what is your bias? Then once again, if you leave open this low, even though, is this a good bottom? Yeah, this is fine. Just because you manipulated here, then I'll accept it. But I do not like these three lows here. So is this sustainable to hold and keep uptrending? It's NASDAQ, so yes, but on crypto I would say no. Way more aggression to the upside. That's really when you lure in those buyers. And when you take them out, you have reasons to. Tested the part, brought you towards new lows. This is also important. Now let's just continue following our market structure. Lower high, new lows. Then again, this was a really quick sweep with a pushback up. So it could just be a reaction of take profits getting hit. And you still had no bias here for upside yet though. Because all of this just looks like it could wanted to trade towards this level. Then let's look. You went down. Tested the gap. This of course really low time frame, new low. And I do not like these candle structures here. There's also not a lot of crazy amount of volume sitting there. It's just its own little compression. You could say this, new lows, little gain. Yeah, and of course you had your test of your gap. Okay, this was really nice though. Five. Of course, the SMT is a good confluence. But yeah, just because you just entered macro with this candle, it's beautiful that you started the buy model, but it's not that convincing for me here. Then I maybe would have waited locally to form something here, maybe a bearish gap to inverse it then, that it would be an easy draw on liquidity towards here. For the rest, not the smoothest PA of there. Maybe if you had those wicks above this candle right here, you would more have that pullback that brought you towards new lows, but it's a little unclear here as well. You would have loved to, when you swept this, to hold your old liquidity and went up from there. You went below it once more. It's giving signals that I don't like. But let's finish what we've started, and that is Bitcoin. Just because we are building up this liquidity doesn't mean we are going to take it. I mean, yes, we are building liquidity until we have grabbed enough on the other side, so on the highs. We don't know if it's this part. We don't know if tapping the supply is enough to move down. You don't know yet unless it happens. What you can do is sketch in the scenarios. So you could have this POI. You could have a scenario where you sweep the high that brought you towards new lows and go down from there. So I had this range sketched in because, of course, when you're moving sideways, you're consolidating, okay? You're building liquidity on the highs and you're building it on the lows. So what most of the time, or at least a lot of times, the market loves to do is manipulate on one side, could have been the bottom as well, and then get that expansion towards the downside, or of course towards the upside. That's the power of 3. But because we have this liquidity here, you are leaning more towards downside. But then once again, this supply isn't that great, hasn't done that much. Look at how you set up this high. It's just liquidity laying above. So let's look at the local part. We also gained a really strong level here. It's just a basic support resistance, but when you look at it also from this perspective, these moves up are really aggressive, okay? And yes, we created this range and we were building liquidity, but we're building liquidity because we need liquidity from the highs. And then what are we holding? We are holding our most aggressive thing we can hold in the market, and that is your breaker. Also aligns with your level here. You can see support, resistance, you flipped it, used it as a bounce, and this in combination with our local price action, because you tested this supply here from this candle that brought you to lows. So if you really wanted to top out, it should have been here and you've kept moving down. But no, you flipped it, you tested the most aggressive part, your breaker, and yeah, you did keep moving up. Remove this. We would have to create something separate here if we really wanted to move down. I remove the range, that is just because it's a big thing in the screen. I do not like that. I like to keep my charts clean. We would have to do something like this. You know, you want to see the market makers trying to sell positions, or at least scale in short orders, or sell their long orders, so they then can move towards this liquidity. If that doesn't happen, then we can just trend up really strong, also testing the highest part of our move towards the upside. It's just strength. And we do not want to short against strength. This high still made new lows. Is this lunch high? Yeah. Could still easily move towards this liquidity. All right. Bitcoin done. AVAX. Did call that out really nicely in the Discord, because we had on the lower time frame, you basically had this, And then this would be your demand that was right here. So the first part where buyers stepped in, that's what we tested. What did we also do? We front ran our POI, and when we front run our POI, we're either gonna build up liquidity to then take out and move in the desired direction, or I mean, building liquidity and luring in buyers comes to the same point. That is to create more liquidity below the lows. That's what we took out. We tested our demand, and that's also I mean, if you start holding this is your pullback that brought you towards those lows. That means if you manage to gain it, it becomes support, and this is the most aggressive way of testing it again. So you could have maybe had a local scalp even on that level. Let me check. No. No, this... I am on the 5 minutes. I've had to be here. No. Okay, this wasn't that bad. Because this is what brought you to new highs. What made you create new lows all the way? That is this part right here. So you would call this a change of character. But I can already hear you thinking, this is bearish structure, right? You made a change of character towards the downside, so your expectancy is the lower high for then new lows. That is correct, but that is if you look to locally, because of course our high time frame, we swept amazing liquidity, we broke structure here, and what is our high time frame expectancy? A higher low for the higher high. And that's what gets a lot of people trapped and confused. Now let's look if there was actually a local play down here. Would have to been over here because you broke structure. What made you break it? This is your manipulation low. Of course, this is what caused you to break, but it would be one of those point of interests. And I always look locally in my point of interests for the possible scalp towards the upside. And do we have any kind of reaction here? No, we did not. So no play, no triggers to look for longs. So we're going towards the next zone. What I like about this one is that we had the consolidation, our manipulation below, and then our fat expansion up. So we do not have to take out this low for an order to move towards more highs. Then if you do draw in a range, this would be your range, where you will have a 1, a 2, and a 3. This is a liquidity hand. Okay. How could have you played this? This is 1 minute. There would not have been an entry here. But then if you look internally, high, higher low, made new highs, lost it, but because of this liquidity schematic in your high time frame to the left, you could expect that upside. You could use this candle or pretty much this whole box, but I would prefer this one right here, because this was pretty much your last candle where price actually did something because of all those wicks. This is just a big bearish candle. So this is basically what happened. And I love the way the candle closes below it. Try to bring you towards new lows. Absolutely failed. Tested really aggressively. And then you flip the zone. The thing is, On NASDAQ, I would put my stop loss here, but we have a high time frame bias. And the high time frame bias is the trade towards new highs on the higher time frame. Just right there. Also, with the liquidity laying around here, you could of course have runners towards that liquidity. And now even you went to your next liquidity level, which is all the way up here. It's also beautiful to see these levels. They're so crazy. Just being respected very well. Quickly pop back to NASDAQ. Getting that down move as expected. Fortunately, locally, where is it? Oh my. I want to see this, how big this imbalance is. Just one tick, not relevant. This is though. What I wanted to see here for play is really simple. This is our extreme liquidity. If we leave open this high that brought us to new lows, then you could expect a new lower high for then more new lows, of course. And you're also against crazy resistance here. So I'm not getting too hot from longing in there, because you are going to get a reaction from it. So what would have to happen for me to take a short here? This brought us to new highs, and if we are in that macro and macro just ended, I like to take my trades when macro just ends. So when you test it, when you try to make new highs, leave your high open, then make new lows and flip this gap. Because then that means we are leaving our highs open and we need liquidity from the lows. Where's that liquidity? Right there. This doesn't look sustainable to me, so I think we are going to move more down, reacting to this. So yeah, unfortunately that did not happen. Just a close, not even a test. Then it's too risky. Because for the same cost, you could have just blasted through that big resistance. Even though it is pretty unlikely. Because if you look at what price action did, of course you swept really nice things down here, right? And we've made a new higher high, and you can expect the higher low for the higher high. What would have the most support and the most benefits for the people that have scaled in orders? Right there. It would have to hold right here. That's your most aggressive way. Your breaker there, your last price action before you broke towards the highs there. So you would have tested it and popped it up. Just like, let me see. This was your demand that had to bring you towards new highs. But when you flip it, it becomes resistance. So your breaker, and you can expect a reaction from there towards more downside. Also swept something significantly. That is swept. The same way our structure was aligning right here, it hasn't done it here yet. There is a bunch of liquidity down here. Look at how many higher lows are stacked. It would be a realistic scenario to expect a sweep of all of this liquidity. Test your previous structure, maybe even this demand here that caused us the break of this high. And then maybe we could start to expect blasting towards new all-time highs still. Because if we look at the 4-hour, there is nothing to sweep here anymore. So if we want to do it, we need to do it from here. If we do not do it from here, or at least from the scenario I've just sketched out, then we are going towards all of these lows down here. This is not enough liquidity grabbing to move towards all of this liquidity, so we need more from the lows, which would be all of these lows. And when we do have grabbed all of those lows, then we could definitely expect a bigger move up. Because this is the whole move that brought you up. You attracted sell or buyers into the market. What would be interesting to then take out? This low right here. From here, if you do see a reaction, you could even fill some spot bags. If you do have money on the side laying around, you do get a local reaction, then it's not a bad idea to put it in at that time right there. No financial advice though. Just telling all of you my own plan. I saw Google opened like crazy. I mean, this is just how you want to trade away, to be strong. Also, structure aligns really well. This is what brought you all the way towards new highs. Then you lured in buyers. You did not make new lows. This is a liquidity hunt. You also tested this really important gap right there on the weekly time frame. Well, and when you take those buyers with that you have lured in right here, well, if you do start holding your lows, then we could expect that we need liquidity from the highs. Where was all that liquidity? At least here. Low time frame as well. This is what brought you towards new lows. When we gain it, that's when we can expect the trend to turn the other way. The same trick, high time frame, we did right here. Lured in buyers. It's really sketchy because you can think this is like a change of character towards the downside, and it is not the easiest thing to trade and spot in the moment. But the open of Google probably has to do with some news, of course. Doesn't just open like that. Unless... let's see. Okay, there were a few days. I think there must have been a news event. And if not, then like crazy. But most of the times the stock just opens up like that, it is because someone has spoken about the stock or news has came out. Alright. If any of you in the chat do have a chart request, then hit me up. I'll take a look at it. I am gonna end the stream in 10 minutes. That's for sure. So if you do have a chart request, then come and get it. Yeah, Google had a lucky day in court, and this is why it's pumped. Well, exactly, a news event. Not a bad short incoming. Because what happens after such a pump? Of course, you keep on pumping a little bit because all of the hype. Then what you actually did here on the 1 minute as well is you broke structure. Where are all of those sellers going to be? At the high. We are at all-time highs. I think round numbers at all-time highs are really important. So I think something like this should be support and resistance. Yeah, around the 230 level. I mean, you're building up trend liquidity until you've taken enough on the other side to then move towards that trend liquidity. Gonna keep an eye on it. Micro strategies. I mean, the high time frame of micro strategies, I've done it 1,000 times and it doesn't get any different here. I don't remember if these are equals though. I thought it was a hunt. Yeah, it was. It doesn't give away the fact that these are pretty much equal lows though. Okay. I'm really interested in this part in micro strategies, and it looks really low, but this is what brought you to a crazy pump on all-time highs. And why do I think we could even come all the way down here? Because that is a crazy correction, and probably if MicroStrategy goes there, then Bitcoin could do it as well. But MicroStrategy does move a bit different, of course. We created the high, and we've just started building trend liquidity. This is your first lower high before you made new lows. So this is your extreme liquidity. If you take out your extreme liquidity and you do not get a reaction, you can pump towards the high. But if price, it even consolidated a bit here for a few days. That's so crazy. I want to check out what happened there actually. Couldn't be more obvious. Damn. These are full ports. No, I'm kidding. Oh my, even a model? No way. I mean, you're building that liquidity until you have taken enough on the highs to then reverse towards the builder liquidity. Also, this is your structure, brought you to new lows. What's your expected order flow? A lower high for new lows. In combination with taking that extreme liquidity, also grabbing over there a little bit. Yeah, that's a crazy short. And even after, right, you still at this one. These are N walks for you. Works the same in NASDAQ N walks. When you flip it, it's support. But if it cannot bring you towards new highs and you flip it, it becomes resistance, and expectancy is also a lower high for new lows. Crazy. So high time frame, we had reasons to move down towards liquidity on the lows. Our high, our higher low, a new higher high. What did we do? We made a lower low. We're still in that expansion of the lower low. I think. That's arguable. I think we have made a valid pullback. Yeah, we definitely have. So this becomes your strong high. Oh my, this song. How can I listen to it? On the higher time frame, this is what brought you towards new highs. That's also what you had to hold for in order to create new highs again, which was expected order flow. But then again, if that level doesn't give the reaction you need and you flip it to bearish, it becomes a breaker. And I'm not even gonna talk about breakers in the free education in the Discord. I'm not gonna make a separate video of that because breakers are really overpowered in the crypto market, in the stock market, in the NASDAQ market. Breakers are crazy. So that's definitely gonna go into the premium. So when that doesn't bring you to new highs, it becomes resistance. That's when you've made the lower high, which was expected from this trend, right? The lower high for the new lower low. And we are still in this expansion move. So yeah, it's crazy down until proven otherwise. There we go. Old equal lows into the market. We love to test those back. We did. And yeah, I think we can just move lower now. But I'm curious. Yeah, Bitcoin is way stronger at the moment. I'm curious if that will put itself right again, or are they gonna move away from each other even more? I'm curious. We'll see what happens though. But yeah, for sure new lows. We got the reaction from this level, which broke this high right here. If this doesn't bring us to new highs, I think we're going to flip it. Now once again, we break below it, becomes resistance, and our only expectancy is to move down because that is our trend that we are in. It's down until proven otherwise. We're gonna make new lower lows and new lower highs until we break one of those highs. But if that's not the case, you're gonna move down. Probably towards these lows. And that would also align with the bias that we haven't tested this previous high time frame structure yet. Because if we look on the weekly, you can clearly see it. Getting all those early buyers in, thinking, yeah, we're gonna go again. We just had this crazy expansion. We're so bullish. But no, that's what makes it interesting for price to actually come back down there. This is where they can really skill in. And then they can continue this order flow. When you front run great liquidity or a really good POI, a lot of the time it's just luring in buyers to then take them out and then move. We actually had the same a little bit on AVAX on the higher time frame. Yeah, look at this. This is what brought you to new lows, which also crazy that we hunted this low actually. That was such a good buying opportunity. We hunted that low, and this pullback is where buyers stepped in and we made a, I can already hear the chartsmith say it, a change of character. I'm gonna finish up AVAX, explain this, then I'm gonna end the stream. Unless someone new has the balls to say something, then I am gonna make time for someone. If someone puts effort in me or in the stream to interact, vice versa, then you're also gonna get effort from me back. That's how it works. It's not just a one-way route, no. You give and you get. But then we front ran that POI, luring in all those early buyers thinking everyone's gonna go. We're gonna go to the moon, and as soon as we trade below the low, everyone's gonna sell their spot bags. And the funny thing is, what is this right here? Yes, you're right, the chart mate. It's market maker accumulation. Okay, so if this is a huge accumulation, then man, we could just blast off straight away. I mean, if we do blast out of here, it is going to be an easy 16% if we manage to trade it, of course. When you do break out of here, we can expect continuation. As long as we hold this right here. That's like our $27 level. If we flip it, we can move there. No doubt at all. What are we doing? You could say compression. Sure. It's kind of moving like the pennant, right? Till it hits the apex, then it's gonna pick a side. Could either be still move down, test your demand, which you're demand chaining right now. Buy, 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 buy. If we are gonna go still to this level, then you really have to look at longs, because this is such a great POI, even high time frame as well. You do not even have to touch the demand in order to move up. Just grabbing all of this liquidity here is enough as well, because that's the goal, right? To fill up orders. And here's that liquidity laying. So I'm curious. But we'll have to move down from where we are right now. But this is strong. This bottom. So even if you leave these lows right here, you still have manipulated right here for in order to move up. And locally it's still up until proven otherwise. Yeah, I wouldn't even touch it here. Bitcoin has actually taken out that high. Good volume spike. But where are your targets? They're not there. So even shorting would be a bit sketchy here. You would have to get that aggression from the hunt here. And then you need to start creating your targets, your liquidity to target. Because right now there's not. Of course, it's right there. But for if you want a fine-tuned local entry, you want it as well. But this could be interesting. This candle brought you, or at least made sure you broke towards this high. If we do react from here, leave our high open, then I do think we can go lower. Okay, that was, yeah, we also called Pepe out. Really good POI. Also shared in the Discord. One of my buddies did manage to play this play. I unfortunately did not, because at that time I was at the gym. It's all not looking that bad, the markets, but we're still not there yet. We'll eat that. This is really bullish. We hold, we break. It's up until proven otherwise. then maybe we could still even break all-time high or reject here. All right, one quick sneak snack at NASDAQ, as expected, but no play were given. Okay, this is gonna be the stream. I want to thank you all for being here, and what I also want to do is, if you're either watching this back or you are watching this right now, I want you to pay attention to the chat right now, okay? And that is because I just put a link in the chat, and that link is to our Discord. The Discord is called Next Wave Trading. I am co-owner of that company, you could say, and I do trade in there. I am active in the Discord. I am sharing charts in the Discord, so if you did like the analysis and do you want some feedback on some possible charts that you have or anything, literally you can ask it, then make sure to really join the Discord, because it's absolutely free. It can only help you progress as a trader. And you would be kind of stupid not to. No offense though. Alright, thank you all for being here. And I will see you all in the next video or stream. Cage is out.